Hey friends, welcome back to another Seed Talk with Layne and Lisa. Hey Layne.
Hello, Lisa. Are you enjoying this lovely October day?
Yes, I love crisp. I love wearing jackets. I love wearing
Oh,
sweaters.
me
I love wearing
too.
socks, you know? Yeah, so it's just that cuddly time of the year. I love my dog to curl up in a ball next to me on the couch in front of the fire. We've already had a fire in the morning.
Oh,
Yeah, so it
wow.
loves fall too. All right, friends, what are we going to talk about today, Layne?
Well, today we are going to be talking about overwintering eucalyptus plants. And just to clarify, we're not talking about overwintering seedlings here. We're talking about the plants that you might have planted out after your last frost in the spring, and they've been growing outdoors all season long and are now well-established
Yeah.
plants. And if you're wondering why you might want to even think about doing that, we'll explain that as well. But we're just going to talk about the process Lisa uses there at the farm to overwinter her eucalyptus to help give her a head start for the next year. So that's what we'll be talking about today.
Awesome, because I know eucalyptus is always in demand. Love that stuff. So let's get started.
Okay, Lisa, so let's just start with what are the benefits of overwintering eucalyptus?
The growth from a more established plant, the number of stems, the length of the stems, and just the overall production is so different. Dave Dowling convinced me to do it one year, and I absolutely could not believe the difference. I mean, I had some that grew 8, 9 feet tall in the second year. And I mean, we just got 10 times more stems. So it's definitely worth the effort for sure.
So the plants just are a lot bigger, they're more prolific,
Yeah,
and then it also obviously saves you from having to buy plugs again or start the seeds, and they are a more slow growing seedling, so that can be quite an advantage too to overwintering.
for sure.
Which zones do you think might have success overwintering eucalyptus?
So 7, 8, and 9. 7 is right on the edge. And again, it would depend on what kind of winter you had that year, right? So I am now currently zone 8A. I've always been 7B/8A. We kind of live literally right on the line. And I understand that it's worth trying if you're in zone 7, 8, and of course 9. And you just have to provide the conditions, and it's worth the effort for sure.
Lisa, how big would your plants be if you had started the seeds or ordered plugs and put them in the ground that same year? How big do those plants typically get compared to the overwintered ones?
Um, I mean, to get a 3 foot plant is pretty standard, 3 to 4 feet, but they don't branch as much.
Right.
And so, but when we overwinter, I mean, some of the this that we're cutting now, some of them are way over my head, and they just have multiple branches. So it is definitely worth the effort. I remember meeting at one of the ASCFG, which is the Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers, a conference. They have vendors selling stuff usually. Well, they had one year, there was this guy there selling eucalyptus plants, big tree. I mean, big, like woody, like bare root kind of thing. And his whole niche was that he said that those varieties he had were overwintering. And it caused all kinds of stir at the conference, because everybody's looking for that. And he was basically there, got some growers to trial some of those. And I don't know that that was a huge success. I could be wrong. But the colder climates, if you don't have a hoop house where the ground stays warmer and you can really block everything, the steps that we're going to talk about really probably wouldn't work for you. But those of us in 7, 8, and even 9 should definitely try this.
You grow a lot of different varieties of eucalyptus. Have you found any of them to be hardier than others? Are there any that seem to more consistently make it through your winter?
I will say that parvula gum, which is the smaller leaf on the left, I guess it was like 3 or 4 years ago where we had a really wicked winter where it did get really cold, up and down, up and down. And I just thought for sure there was just no way the eucalyptus was going to survive. Well, the polyanthumus didn't survive, the silver dollar didn't survive, but the parvula gum didn't just survive, but it thrived. I mean, it just really did not die off, and we had a banner year the following year. So, but that could have been on a lot of reasons why parvulagum was in the middle of the bed instead of being at the ends, So I would say, parvulagum has expressed more hardiness to us than others.
All right, Lisa. So when do you typically prepare your eucalyptus plants for winter? And then can you just describe the whole process you go through to do that?
Sure, it's like the end of the season when you're kind of closing your garden down, right? So you've harvested all of it, and boy, that's the parvulagum there on the left. I think the darker green, that's the year that they just wintered over so beautifully, and on the right, that's a variety that nobody's been able to get for years now, silver drop. And those two grew to like 12 feet tall. What we would do at the end of the season, after we have squeezed every stem off of it we can, so it's pretty much cut down to almost a nub. And if it's not, you need to cut it back to about 12 to 18 inches tall. We mulch it deeply with leaves. I mean, when I mean deeply, like you like put enough leaves, it's like you can hardly see the stump. So you're looking at 12 to 18 inches of leaves all around it. And then we hoop it and we double row cover it. And that just protects it from the wind, gives it some insulation. And that has just worked really, really well. And that's a Dave Dowling process. And so Dave, of course, always overwintered his in hoop houses. And he would even do that on deeply cold years, if you're going down, below zero. So the leaves are the insulation, and the row cover just really blocks the wind and helps to concentrate any sunlight that gets in there to warm it up.
So you're using a double layer of lightweight Ag 19 row cover on hoops.
Yes.
Do you treat your eucalyptus beds any differently over the winter than you treat your cool flower beds in terms of temporarily removing the row cover at certain temperatures or during certain weather conditions?
I don't think I've ever taken it down. These guys thrive in heat. They're from Australia. So I've never taken it down no matter what the weather's done in the winter. Not even snow for that fact. I mean, it would be one of the only times that I would leave a row cover up. Because it tends to be more supported because of the leaves. It's not like the row cover is going to collapse. So in the spring, once we're getting close to our last frost date, because there's no reason to like snap it at the end of the process. So I wait until we're almost at our last frost date, and keep an eye on the weather and then take it off. Take the mulch, push it away, give it a good deep watering once stuff starts growing, and you're off and running. You're like a year ahead of your new transplants.
And what kind of success have you had with this in general?
We haven't had a fail yet. I will say the biggest challenge for me as a farmer with doing this is planting the eucalyptus at the right place in my garden, because it's typically planted with the warm season tender annuals, because that's kind of what we have to treat it like most often. Then it's like, okay, I've got this eucalyptus, either a whole bed of it or a run of a bed with eucalyptus, but everything else is going to be torn down, and I want to cover crop for the winter, or I want to do something different. So you have to strategically plan where you're going to plant eucalyptus so you can efficiently winter it over and not, bemoan the rest of your garden, because it can be a pain in the neck.
When do you typically start to see new growth on your overwintered eucalyptus in the spring?
So late April and May. Our last frost date's typically mid-April. So after it warms up and stuff starts growing.
Have you noticed any difference in the amount of time it takes to get harvestable stems from your first year plants versus your overwintered ones? Are you able to harvest from your overwintered plants any earlier in the season, or is it typically all around the same timeline?
We typically kind of have a rule here. I try not to cut eucalyptus until September 1st. It's like that's kind of our new crop for the fall. And when you have people cutting that might not be as apt at figuring out what is mature and what isn't, it's kind of hard on eucalyptus. We feel really sure by September 1st, everybody's ready to be cut. So I don't really look at it that way. So I haven't noticed that.
And can you just describe for everyone again, what is the proper stage to harvest that eucalyptus?
Let's look at some. I have it right here.
Oh, yeah.
So this is parvulagum, and you can just see that the ends of the stems are pretty well developed. When
Me
you
too.
look at this polyanthumus, how pretty is that?
Oh,
Love this. Um, and these leaves on the end are really leathery feeling, you know? And this was cut a week ago. So if it was going to shrivel, it would have already shriveled, right? So that's what I'm looking for is nice leathery feeling at the end. And this is silver dollar. And you can see
beautiful.
that they're just really very developed at the end. You'll quickly learn when you come out a couple days later after you cut it. If you cut it too soon, those tips will shrivel. And we have yet to be able to dry, no matter how mature it is, to dry eucalyptus without the tips shriveling. That's kind of a conversation always because we don't use glycerin or we don't do any of that stuff. You can do that stuff and prevent that, but that's not something that's in our realm of what we do as flower farmers.
So do you typically just snip that tip
Yeah.
off then?
Literally, so I have some polyanthumus that from a few weeks ago, and so I hung it, and it was so pretty. I picked it up to look at it, and the ends were shriveled, and I just snipped those tips off, and now it looks great.
All right, well, that does it for this Overwintering Eucalyptus episode. Let us know in the comments over on YouTube or using the form linked in the show notes if you have tried Overwintering Eucalyptus or if you're hoping to try it, and also what your favorite varieties are. There are lots of different looks to choose from, so we always love hearing that. And thanks again for joining us. Please be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. And as always, we appreciate if you share with a friend if you are enjoying Seed Talk. And just thanks again for being here with us.
All right, friends. Thanks, Layne, for another great show.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye.